I wanted to mention one more thing. Before I came here today, I happened to read an article about these e-cigarettes that everybody seems to be so, happy about for some reason, Um, I read an article today, and I've done a little research about these e-cigarettes, and from what I understand, they're really not sure what's in this. They're saying that they're vapors from nicotine. If it has anything to do with nicotine, it can't possibly be good for you. I mean, that's how I look at it. I'm saying, they're talking about it's so wonderful now and it's not regulated now. But what's going to happen 5 years from now when they realize that these people that are putting these, because all the cigarette companies are putting these e-cigarettes out. You know, I mean, I don't want you to think that it's some independent company. You got all these different names now for these e-cigarettes, but their backing is all by, the cigarette manufacturers. So, I mean, I'm not an opponent of these e-cigarettes because I really don't know that much about them. But to be on the safe side, I wouldn't mess with them because 5 years from now, they'll come up with, something that's in there like they did with regular cigarettes. I don't believe the manufacturers, I think that they'll tell you anything to get you to buy these things. So I'd be very cautious for anyone that's thinking about trying these electronic cigarettes.
I have a question for you. So, I'm going to talk a little loud so everyone can hear me. And I'm glad that you touched upon e-cigarettes. With the change in market going from products like Newport or Marlboro to now e-cigarettes like Blue, and the conception is that they are good for you, they are better. How can we protect our youth so that they're not manipulated by this idea that they are good for you? What can we do to kind of help them?
I think you still have to stay on the same thing, that anything that has anything to do with nicotine. Now, like I said, I just read that they're talking about that in these e-cigarettes, there's nicotine vapors. I mean, I don't know what nicotine vapors are, but, if it has anything to do with nicotine, it can't be good for you. And I would harp on that to make them understand that if any of these cigarettes have any kind of nicotine in it, it's not good for you. I don't care how they dress it up. I don't care, what color they do it because, they got all different kind of colors now and to entice children, to think that, this is okay. I don't know if you remember years ago, they used to have the candy cigarettes. Remember that? In the little pack, they'd have the candy cigarettes. So that's what I think these electronic cigarettes are. It's just a different type of way. And then when you start smoking these electronic cigarettes and then you get hooked on smoking because it's still smoking regardless, right? And then what happens if the taste now is not good enough for you? Naturally, now you want to go to regular cigarettes. So it's like a stepping stone. So, if you don't have any of this stuff, then you don't have to worry about none of it.
I have a question. When the doctors were first telling you not to smoke and you were resisting, did they explain to you, like, how does the tar and nicotine play a role in clogging your arteries? Like, they have found it, like, they have proof that actually happens,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Is it the tar that builds up
It's the
inside?
nicotine
It's the nicotine.
that hardens your arteries. And, the blood has to flow, the blood flows around your body like a circle.
Right.
And it's the nicotine that, I don't know if you've heard the expression hardening of the arteries.
Where it attaches.
It attaches and little by little it closes and it closes until it's completely clogged. It's like getting a blood clot. You know how some people have a blood clot and the blood can't flow because it's like a blockage right there.
And they were explaining that to you,
They
but
explained it to me, but me who knew better than the doctors still couldn't get it to my mind that all of this that was happening to me came from me smoking a cigarette. And that's where the problem came in. Until all of these operations I had and, I finally got in my right mind and I started reading a lot on Berger's disease and, I found a lot of articles and I spoke to a lot of doctors, and then I finally realized that regardless of what I thought, this disease was from smoking. And my doctor had told me at one time, if you continue to smoke, the disease is going to get worse, and eventually it's going to kill you.
How much did you smoke every day?
At one point, I was smoking almost 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and I was smoking Marlboro, which was like the worst cigarette that you could even think of. It was just so strong. But I mean, it was just something that I was doing. Like I said, during that time, you could smoke at work. I used to smoke at work, and you could smoke where. So, anytime you wanted to light up. Matter of fact, I used to live out here in Staten Island, so I used to smoke at the ferry. I used to smoke on the ferry. And it's very difficult. It's much easier now because there's so many places that you can't smoke. I have friends that still smoke, but they smoke less now because there's so many places that you can't smoke. If you're in the movies or something, you want to smoke, what are you going to get up in the middle of the movie and go outside and smoke a cigarette? So, in that way, it's so much better. But I was just hard-headed, that's all. And I think at one time I was so sick that I really didn't want to hear anything. I didn't want to hear, as far as I was concerned, the doctors were making excuses, that you're telling me this is from cigarette smoking, and I'm saying to myself, well, the damage is done. Why should I stop now? And that's how you look at it. I'm like, come on, you took my leg, my fingers, my foot, and now you want me to stop smoking? The one thing I have left, you want me that I enjoy, you want me to stop smoking, what's left? And I think that's the mindset that I had for a long time, until I just realized that, every operation I have, every amputation I get, it's going to continue if I continue smoking. So it finally got through to me, and it took almost 12 years because I got sick in '92 and I stopped smoking in 2006. So, that'll give you an idea of, how addictive this is. And like I said, I amputated my foot, my fingers, whatever, and all I could think about was getting home to light up that Marlboro. And I'm not proud of that, but
As an advocate, do you have any advice for us youth advocates on how to deal with youth? Because you're saying, the way you're talking about how teens generally they just brush off. How would you try to help them?
well, I think it's so important for other teens, to talk to their people. And I say that, in your age group, because they'll listen more so to you than they will to me. Because I tell them this and they're like, well, that's an old folks disease. You got this at 42. I'm 16. I can't get this. So I think it's very important, to have young people like yourself, talk to other young people, and explain to them and hopefully make them understand that, we're not worried about you getting this tomorrow. We're worried about you getting this, when you're grown, you have a family, you have your whole life ahead of you, you're making plans, and then all of a sudden, bam. And you don't want that to happen. So I think that's the best way, for you to go, is just to try to talk to them on your own level. And hopefully they'll listen to you.
Do you think that at your age you would listen to us when you were 17?
Not during that time. And I say that because, like I said, during that time it was so different and cigarettes were glorified. Everybody that I knew smoked. And the young ladies smoked because they wanted to look older. So when the fellas looked at them, they was like, oh yeah, she smokes over there. So it was a different time. Now it's completely different. You have more information. People are listening more. And you have people like me and other people that can show proof of what could happen to you if you smoke. So I think you got a better chance today, than I would have had, when I was 17, like I said, which was a long time ago. So,
Can I just make a comment on to, I was unaware of how cigarettes were actually marketed. Aside from the fact that in the movies, and I don't want to say how old I am, they used to smoke. But until Ashley actually pointed out certain things, and you addressed it, where you walk into a store, and it
I mean, you're supposed to go to the pharmacy to get medicine because something's wrong. Yes, and whenever you go to pay for it, that's all you see behind the counter is all the cigarettes and cigars and whatever. Which is just so ridiculous to me. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. And that's another thing that hopefully, the city council wants to address. They're trying to get the sale of cigarettes out of all of these, Rite Aid and CVS and whatever. Because that makes no sense to me whatsoever. If I don't feel well, I'm going to the pharmacy to get something to make me feel better. And while I'm getting the medicine, all I'm seeing is all these cigarette products that can make me feel worse. So, but you have to remember that cigarettes, tobacco is a business. And their only concern is to make money. And so long as people continue to buy cigarettes, they're going to continue to market them. And they're going to come up with other things like the e-cigarettes or whatever, So, I mean, hopefully one day we don't have to worry about none of that, that'll be the least of our problems, smoking. But, we're trying, so we're really trying.
How often do you get to talk to a group of kids?
I guess maybe once every 2 months or so, yeah. And I mean, not just the kids, just in general.
Right.
Yeah, just in general, yeah. I've been trying to really get people to understand, I have so many friends that still smoke. And I'm not one for like harping on somebody constantly, because I think that you should know already. And if you're a friend of mine and you see what I've gone through and you see how my life is on a daily, day-to-day basis, and there's any kind of possibility that you could get this, I don't think I have to constantly tell you that smoking is no good for you. I mean, unless you're just somebody that's completely stupid, and I don't think anybody that I know is completely stupid. So, I just take it as it is. If somebody asks me for my opinion, I give it to them. If somebody asks me to tell me, my story or whatever happened, I try to explain to them as much as I can. But I don't think that I should have to, stay on you, why are you smoking, why are you smoking, you know why you're smoking, and you know the consequences that come behind that. It's a possibility. So it's just something that, you have to decide that you need to do for yourself and your family. I don't think nobody here, wants to wake up tomorrow morning and their whole life is different because, now they're in a wheelchair or now they're, in a bed and you need somebody to wash you or whatever the case is, I mean, you don't even want to think of nothing like that, but it's a possibility. So you need to think about it.